There is quite the deal for the record books that has just been fully effectuated. Pharmaceutical giant Pfizer will indeed, because we'd heard about it, they had announced it, but now it is happening. They will buy Allergan to form a $155 billion global drug behemoth. So the combined businesses will be renamed Pfizer. But here's the trick. Legally, they will be combined under Allergan to, you guessed it, move the headquarters to Ireland to avoid paying much higher U.S. corporate taxes. So the combined company expects that its tax rate will go to 17 to 18%. And right now it's at 25%. Forget the fact that the corporate tax rate is really supposed to be 35% here, but big corporations have figured out ways to game it down to 25%. But if you can cut 25 to 17, why not? Taxes are precisely the issue that the 2016 presidential candidates are trying to fix. And this just coming in, Hillary Clinton blasting the deal between Pfizer and Allergan. She promises to release her own plan in the next few weeks. But she's saying this: for too long, powerful corporations have exploited loopholes that allow them to hide earnings abroad to lower their taxes. This proposed merger and so-called inversions by other companies will leave U.S. taxpayers holding the bag. Okay, let's bring in Fred Barnes. He's executive editor of the conservative magazine, The Weekly Standard, and Julie Rajinski is a Fox News contributor on the Democratic side. Fred, right off the bat, this is not exploiting a loophole. This is, we're buying a company and we're moving our domicile, meaning our headquarters, and that's just about it, to Ireland so we can participate in better tax rates. Is there something wrong with this inherently as you see it?
No, and it certainly serves the stockholders. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just trying to avoid the highest taxes on corporations and businesses, small and large, but particularly on large, in the world. You know, other countries, most every other country, if you have a company that makes profits overseas and you pay taxes there, you don't have to pay them back at home. But President Obama and his entire administration and Hillary Clinton, they want to tax you both places. It's double taxation, and it puts American companies at a distinct disadvantage in the world.
Okay, so the offshore corporate profits are a different story. But, Julie, at this point, is Hillary Clinton going after the wrong focus here? Shouldn't it be, let's fix the corporate tax rate and lure these companies to stay back here? Because this is the greatest nation in the world. Why not have the protections and all of the wonderful things about America and slightly lower tax rate?
Well, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find people who are voting Democratic in the Democratic primary, or really probably most people around the country, Democrats or independents, who would say that corporations are not paying their fair share. In fact, a lot of people think corporations are not paying their fair share. They're exploiting loopholes. This is actually, I agree with you, not a loophole. But they're not doing enough to pay their fair share while middle-class people are. And I think that's what you're seeing her appeal to. Look, I don't blame Pfizer for exploiting this. I think it's a smart a smart corporate move for them or for their shareholders. But I think this is the kind of stuff that you see corporations getting away with, and people, normal, regular people who are voting in Democratic primaries or in general elections saying, wait a second, this doesn't seem right to us. We don't get to exploit these kinds of loopholes.
Listen, on a great day, we'd be worried about this. But, of course, terrorism now appears to be, guys, the number one thing. It has now basically jumped ahead of the economy and things like corporate tax rates as the number one thing that really matters to people. Fred, you have all kinds of candidates saying all kinds of things. I mean, you got Donald Trump saying one thing about waterboarding, bring it back. You've got Ben Carson making comments. You know, Ben Carson, who actually, I believe, thinks that that Thomas Jefferson wrote the Constitution. He did not. James Madison did. So I put less sort of stress on that. But Rubio and Cruz, they're certainly getting a lot of attention here. What is the answer to terrorism at this moment, and who has it, if anyone?
Well, I don't know that. Well, look, it's clear that President Obama doesn't have it. That he's still dismissing ISIS as some group that just has, tough guys who have good social media.
Okay, but which candidate has it? Which candidate is coming closest?
Well, in the polls, I'll tell you what most people think, and who's gained the most since the Paris attacks, and that's Donald Trump. I mean, it seems like when world events happen, Donald Trump goes up. He's gone up some. But then also Marco Rubio, when you look at his numbers, his foreign policy rating is much higher than his overall rating. So he's gained, in particular. Ben Carson, who doesn't come across as a guy with a real grip on foreign policy and what to do in international affairs, has lost ground.
Yeah, he has. And Julie, Hillary Clinton came out on Friday and and very specifically made a pointed comment about boots on the ground.
Yeah. Listen, I think none of these people on either side of the aisle have been honest with the American people. I mean, what you need to do if you really want to address this issue, and I'm not necessarily for this, but you need to put hundreds of thousands of people on the ground in 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 countries, cut a deal with Iran, cut a deal with Russia, cut a deal with Assad. If that's what you want to do, if you want to get ISIS, if you think ISIS is your number one problem, if you think Iran's your number one problem or Russia's your number one problem, then you've got a different strategy. And nobody has the faith in the American people to have a nuanced discussion and say this is not a linear thing. We need to talk about what our priorities are and the difficult decisions we need to make. But we're in campaign silly season, so nobody's going to be able to do that in a 30-second soundbite, and that's the problem.
Well, you just did
well,
it.
look, some people are. I mean, look at Lindsey Graham. He's proposing 10,000 troops. You don't need hundreds of thousands of troops. ISIS isn't that big, but you just need to do a lot more than what Obama's doing, which is just pinpricks. That's all he's doing.
But
Fred, Lindsey Graham wants to go to war against Assad and against ISIS. I mean, Lindsey Graham wants to go to war against everybody. That's not the real solution. You need to have alliances with somebody.
I'm just citing, whether it's Lindsey Graham or somebody else, he has a solution that can work.
I don't think
look what Leon Panetta, the former defense secretary under Obama, said on Meet the Press just yesterday, that Obama's not doing enough, that he's not leading.
That appears to be the consensus now, and General Bob Scales had just come up and said about 50,000 troops could do it, because if you look at the map, it's Raqqa to Mosul, it spreads a region of Syria to Iraq. We shall see. We're watching this, and when somebody comes forth with a very delineated idea of what happens, we'll argue about that again, guys. Thank you so much.
Good.
Fred Barnes and Julie Rosinski, great to have you.